It's not a metaphor or a joke, but what Trump and Orban want the most is fascism. Now, are you a Democrat or have you voted for Democrats in the past? And if the answer is yes, Donald Trump wants to put your fucking ass in prison. And this may sound preposterous, but these are not idle threats. At Trump's Klan rally last week in Wisconsin, Trump told his sycophantic inbreds this: "We are a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement like never before against the opposing political party. They send their law enforcement out to get them because they can't beat us at the polls, so let's lock them up." Like any autocrat or tyrant, Trump is engaging in an act of obvious psychological projection. He imagines himself to be the victim of some vast conspiracy, and this imagined victimhood becomes a justification for violence and other crimes against human decency and society. Trump is actually threatening, or more precisely promising to put his political opponents and others who dare to oppose him in prison if they don't suck his dick, or to subject them to some even worse fate. If he manages to regain his position as a squatter, now these are themes that Trump and his acolytes have repeated during his time as a failed squatter and beyond. The January 6th Klan insurrection and Trump's coup attempt were those evil desires that were partly translated into their form of reality. Now Trump has gone further of late, even telling his audiences where he would imprison these enemies of the people. In a recent Klan speech at the Destroy America Agenda Summit, he promised to put homeless people and drug addicts in special camps as a way of removing them from the country's major cities. Once such camps are created, they would in all likelihood soon be used for political enemies as well. Fascists and other authoritarians find ways to disappear people as a matter of a routine. Now, those who continue to believe in the permanence and sanctity of America's institutions and the rule of law, and who instinctively proclaim that it would be illegal for Trump and the Republicans to do so, any such thing are living in a fantasy world. Many of those same public voices also announced with certainty that it would be impossible for Trump and his confederates to attempt a coup because such things simply cannot happen here. Now, by definition, fascists and other authoritarians do what they want to do, proclaiming their deeds to be legal after the fact if necessary. They have no use or respect for the law except for when they can twist it to advance their pursuit of power and domination. Now, as many people and numerous others have repeatedly observed, demagogues, autocrats, and tyrants typically tell you that what they're going to do, and then they do it. They do not conceal their goals or motivations, and they are not fucking kidding. One does not need to be an expert in semiotics or linguistics to decode what Trump and other fascists are saying. The meaning is clear for anyone who chooses to pay attention. Back in a much-discussed 2016 essay for the New York Review of Books, Masha Gessen offered this prescient advice about understanding the realities of fascism and other forms of authoritarianism. Basically, Masha lived in autocracies most of her life, and spent much of their career writing about Vladimir Putin's Russia. And basically, Masha learned a few rules for surviving in an autocracy and salvaging your sanity and self-respect, but it might be worth considering them now. Now, rule number 1 is believe the autocrat. He means what he says. Whenever you find yourself thinking or hear others claiming that he is exaggerating, that is our innate tendency to reach for rationalization. Now, this will happen often, and humans seem to have evolved to practice denial when confronted publicly with the unacceptable. Back in the 1930s, the New York Times assured its readers that Hitler's anti-Semitism was all posture, that he had received the support he needed to win and the adulation he craved, precisely because of his outrageous threats. Now Trump's Klan rally crowds have chanted "lock her up," and they and he meant every word. Trump has made his plans clear, and he has made a compact with his voters to carry them out. These plans include not only dismantling legislation such as Obamacare, but also doing away with judicial restraint and, yes, punishing their opponents. Now, last weekend's CPAC meeting in Dallas once again proved the wisdom of Gessen's advice. Consider what some of the featured speakers actually said. Donald Trump repeated his threats about putting homeless people and other vulnerable people in concentration camps. He reiterated his promise to federalize the National Guard as his personal enforcers to be deployed against crime. In the majority of the black and brown cities, he continued to encourage violence, but to his sycophants through both stochastic and terrorism and overt threats. So as we gather tonight, now Trump is trying to pin this on Biden, but obviously it was Trump that did this. So basically he claims, as we gather again, our country is being destroyed more from the inside out. Yeah, that was because of you. America is on the edge of an abyss, yeah, because you. And our movement is the only force on earth that can save it. No, you didn't save America. This movement right here, we do it in the next few months, in the next few years. So Trump is trying to claim that he's going to save America, which he destroyed. Now, Steve Bannon, Trump's former campaign CEO and White House strategist, who has since become a propagandist for international fascism, said in his CPAC speech that we're at a war that Trump basically caused, and we're at a political and ideological one. We could say you can say anything else you want about it, but we're at a war. He described Joe Biden as an illegitimate imposter, which is what Trump was. Now, Viktor Orban, the right-wing Prime Minister of Hungary, was the featured guest at the CPAC meeting. Catherine Joyce of Ceylon offered this up in context. Over the last 2 years, Viktor Orban has become an icon of American conservatives that have been rivaled by Donald Trump himself. That's so much the case that this week's CPAC is bookended by Orban's opening speech on Saturday's night, and Saturday night's closer by Trump, who earlier this week posted pictures of himself and Orban meeting at his New Jersey golf course, along with the caption, "Great spending time with a friend," which Trump doesn't have any friends. But Thursday's opening speech was the most high-profile appearance Orban has made since igniting international controversy 2 weeks ago over comments he made condemning the notion of a mixed-race nation as an ideological ruse of the internationalist left, and urging supporters to read one of the most infamously racist books over the last 50 years. But Orban's Dallas address wasn't his first invitation by CPAC. In the recent years, CPAC has incrementally broadened its scope beyond U.S. borders, holding many versions of its flagship American gatherings in countries such as Israel and Brazil. In May, the group held its first ever European conference in Budapest, where Orban, serving as a host, offered a 12-point open source plan for Americans to emulate Hungary's Christian conservative success and reject the progressive dominance. In Dallas, Orban struck a similar tone. A part pregame coach, you must play to win. Part commanding officer of an international brigade, we must coordinate the movement of our troops because we face the same challenge. Now, throughout, he spoke from the premise widely accepted among today's U.S. right that Hungary, which recently voted Orban into its fourth consecutive term, has discovered their secret recipe for a permanent conservative rule. Now, during his CPAC speech, as reported by The Guardian, Orban summoned up centuries-old lies about a Jewish cabal that secretly runs the world and manipulates black people and brown people, along with the unwitting Democrats, into doing its bidding, which is not true. But Hungary is an old, proud, but David-sized nation, standing alone against the woke globalist Goliath. Now we invite the solidarity of American conservators, and they are in what they call total attack. So we need a total defense. You have to be fucking brave, but if you fear, you have a fucking job to do. The only thing that we Hungarians can do is show you how to fight back by our own rules. We are not the favorites of the American Democrats. They do not want me to be here. Of course they don't. And they made every effort to drive a wedge between us. They hate me and they slander me and my country. Yeah, we hate you because you're a fucking fascist. And as they hate you and slander you in America you stand for, you don't stand for anything except for fascism. And why? Because they knew what I would tell you. Because I am here to tell you that we should unite unite all our forces. Now, Orban has also challenged the white supremacist Great Replacement conspiracy theory, which he believes in. Now, the future of the West is in grave doubt. We must take back the institutions of Washington and Brussels. Now, we must find friends and aliens and allies in one another. Now, we must coordinate the movement of our troops because we face the same challenge Europe and America's coming elections, he said. It will define the two fronts in the battle being fought for Western civilization. And today we hold neither of them, yet we need them both. And you have 2 years to get ready. The other speakers and future guests at the CPAC gathering in Dallas continue with these fascist themes, threatening political violence against the deep state, socialist Democrats, and other enemies that were walloping in the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and celebrating both the January 6th coup attempt and the big lie. If a time machine or some other portal between the past and the present existed, the speakers and attendees at this month's CPAC meeting could travel to the 1939 infamous pro-Nazi rally at the Madison Square Garden, where they would feel right at home. In a 2019 essay for the New Yorker, Margaret Talbot explored the horrific resonance that connects the pro-fascist America, the Destroy America movement of the 1930s and early 1940s to Trumpism and the white right of the present day. A Night at the Garden is a 7-minute documentary film composed entirely of archival footage that is, in its way, as chilling and disorienting to watch as the most inventive full-length horror film. The film, which was nominated for an Oscar in the documentary short category, it chronicles the nights in February of 1939 when 20,000 American men, women, and children gathered at Madison Square Garden for an event billed as a pro-America rally when it was a Nazi rally. But in the opening minutes, the signifiers seem scrambled as though in a nightmare. A banner of George Washington hangs at the back of the stage, and there are American flags everywhere and excited kids dressed in what might be scouting uniforms, but people in the audience are given the stiff-armed Hitler salute, and the speaker is a guy named Fritz Kahn, who's the head of the German-American Bund, a national organization that supported the Nazi Party. But even more unnerving than the strangeness of the spectacle is the creeping sense of familiarity that it evokes. Kuhn's snarky excoriation of the Jewish-controlled press and his demand that our government shall be returned to the American people who founded it, and even in the idolatry of the founding fathers, all have their echoes in the far-right politics today. Now, no moment in the film seems more redolent of our current demagogues' maggot rallies than the one in which a protester scrambles onto the stage. Now, he was Isidore Greenbaum, a 26-year-old plumber's helper from Brooklyn, and he is promptly tackled and pummeled by Kuhn's supporters amidst the appreciative laughter and hooting from the crowd. And one advantage to living through Trumpism is that it has compelled a reckoning with aspects of our country's past that for a long time many Americans preferred not to acknowledge. Now, on Monday, the FBI searched Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort and residence in Florida after obtaining a search warrant from a judge. It has been reported that FBI agents recovered numerous boxes that may contain classified documents illegally taken from the White House. And now, on Thursday night, the Washington Post reported that sources close to the investigation say that some of those documents were related to national security matters, including U.S. nuclear weapons. Now, predictably, Trump took to his not truthful social platform and issued a delusional edict, in which again he appeared to incite violence by his sycophants and proclaimed that he is the victim of a vast democratic conspiracy, which he's not. Now, these are not hollow threats, but but this is something that Trump had said, and he's full of shit on. Now, these are dark times for our nation, as his ugly ass home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president or a squatter of the United States before. Yeah, Trump, the reason why this happened to you is because you took stuff that didn't belong to you. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my ugly ass home was not necessarily appropriate. It was very appropriate, and it was necessary. It is a prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical Democrats. Trump tries to claim that Democrats are radical, when in reality the Republicans are. We don't want you to run in 2024 as squatter because you destroyed America. That's why. And such an assault could only take place in a broken third world country, and sadly Americans have now become one of these countries corrupt at a level never seen before. Yet, Trump, you caused this corruption. The political persecution of former squatter Donald Trump has been going on for years. He claims that he stood up to America's bureaucratic corruption. No, you didn't. He claims he restored power to the people. No, he didn't. He claims he truly delivered for our country, which he did not. What we hated, Trump, is you lying and not doing shit that you claimed you were going to do. Trump claims that he will continue to fight for the American people, which he never did anyway. But these are not hollow threats. Across the right-wing echo chamber, Trump, his inbred sycophants, and the larger American fascist movement are announcing their plans to retaliate and seek revenge against Joe Biden, the Democrats, the Attorney General Merrick Garland, and others as they target the American traitors, which the American people would be wise not to take these threats lightly. And this is not a game or a fucking joke, and it's not material for mockery by late-night TV hosts. American democracy continues to be imperiled by Trump and his movement, and they will not stop until they succeed in replacing with their own version of fascism, which is carrying a cross and wrapped in a flag. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the about section of YouTube. And for just as little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.